Okay. Okay, so we have finished the story of David meeting Abigail, his third wife. Abigail was the wife of a man named Nabal. Now, by the way, something I don't think I mentioned this when I read the story last time. Nabal, as we see here somewhere in these footnotes, means fool or whatever. And so this is another one of those examples where Nabal was probably not this guy's actual name. Okay, this is another one of those examples where the scriptures are using a word to describe him that almost certainly wasn't the name he was given. No one would name their son Fool. And if you're Nabal, a wealthy landowner, you wouldn't allow yourself to be called Fool. We saw how mean-spirited and mean-tempered he was. He's not going to go around letting his wife and his servants call him Fool. Okay? And he wouldn't have had that name at birth. No parent would name their son Fool. So, this is another example of someone in Scripture being called by a word that is used as their name, which almost certainly wasn't their actual name. We have no idea what their actual name was. That's just how this, and we can sit around and argue about that, whatever, but that's just how it is, okay? So that happens sometimes, and this is one of those times. And then we read about how Saul, now David now has 3 wives legally. His first wife was Michal, Saul's daughter. But he hasn't been with her in a while. When he fled Saul, she stayed there. And he hasn't seen her since. And Saul ended up giving her to somebody else. Which, legally, she's still David's wife. And David will eventually want her back away from this other guy. I don't know how this works. I mean, this does technically go against the law of Torah. Where you weren't supposed, Michal now is an adulteress, and the guy who marries her, or takes her, I don't know if he, Paltiel, son of Laish, is an adulterer. David will eventually get Michal back. It's just one of those things where the politics of royal families and the law as laid out in the Torah don't always see eye to eye on things, But David now technically has 3 wives, although he only has 2 with him at this moment. One of them is still with Saul and out of the picture, at least for the time being. And David is still on the run. Stop that! So, 1 Samuel 26. The Ziphites went to Saul at Gibeah and said, "Is not David hiding on the hill of Hachilah, which faces Jeshimon?" Cat, quit that! Don't do that! Why do you have to do this, Cat? You were up there sleeping peacefully until the moment I sat down to get started on this. Then you came down and you started buzzing around. So annoying. As soon as I get up, you'll leave. It's like, oh gosh, what are you doing now? Oh no. Oh. You're so annoying. Come on, move. Why don't you leave my stuff alone? Ugh. Okay, so these are the same guys, by the way, who sold out David once before. Excuse me. Wow. Ziph, chapter 23. he has been here before, and he's been sold out by these people before. So Saul went down to the desert of Ziph. Now, last time, when Saul got the report that David was in this area, chapter 23, verse 19, or actually verse 21, Saul gives like this lengthy diplomatic reply about the Lord bless you for your concern for me. Go and make further preparation. Find out where David usually goes and who has been seen with him there and who has seen him there. They tell me he is very crafty. Find out about all the hiding places he uses and come back to you with definite information. Then I will go down with you. If he is in the area, I will track him down. This time around, he's not doing any of that. He finds out that David is in the area, and he's going to go. So Saul went down to the desert of Ziph with his 3,000 chosen men of Israel to search there for David. Saul made his camp beside the road on the hill of Hachilah, facing Jeshimon, but David stayed in the desert. When he saw that Saul had followed him there, he sent out scouts and learned that Saul had definitely arrived with David's enemies, according to the footnote down here. Actually, no, that's the wrong footnote. Or had come to Nakan. He had definitely arrived. Excuse me, I got that mixed up. Then David set out and went to the place where Saul had camped. He saw where Saul and Abner, son of Ner, the commander of the army, had lain down. Saul was sleeping. They were asleep. Saul was lying inside the camp with the army encamped around him. So they're all sleeping. It's nighttime. David then asked Ahimelech the Hittite, and Abishai, son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, who will go down to the camp with me to Saul? So he's asking who will go with him. These two guys, a Hittite, Abishai. I will go with you, said Abishai. Abishai and Joab are David's nephews. Okay, Zeruiah is one of David's sisters. So these are her sons, which means these are David's nephews. I don't know how much older than David Zeruiah was. Remember, David was the youngest of either 7 or 8 sons, and he had 2 sisters who probably were older than him too, and could have been older by him by a number of years. You know, if his sisters were high up in the birth order, they could have been 10 to 15 and maybe even 20 years older than him. So his nephews probably aren't that much younger than him. They probably, I mean, I'm sure they are younger than him, but not by a significant amount. At any rate, they are among his fighting men. In fact, Joab will be these will be actually some of his top guys. Joab will be his general, and these will be some of his top guys. I'll go with you, said Abishai. So David and Abishai went to the army by night. And there was Saul, lying asleep inside the camp with his spear, remember he always has that spear with him these days, stuck in the ground near his head. He always has that spear as close by as possible. If not in his hand, outright in his hand, then as close to him as he can get it. Abner and the soldiers were lying around him. Abishai said to David, "Today God has delivered your enemy into your hands. Now, let me pin him to the ground with one thrust of my spear. I won't need to strike him twice." That way, at least David does not incur the blood guilt of killing Saul. Abishai is willing to take that responsibility for himself so that David doesn't have to. Previously, in the cave, they wanted David himself to strike down Saul, and David backed away from that. So Abishai this time is saying, let me do it, I'll kill Saul, so you don't have to. But David said to Abishai, don't destroy him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? As surely as the Lord lives, he said, the Lord himself will strike him, Saul. Either his time will come and he will die, or he will go into battle and perish. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now, Get the spear and water jug that are near his head, and let's go. So David apparently had no intention of killing Saul when he came into this camp. Now, last time Saul came to him in the cave, David and his men were already in the cave, and Saul came in there where they were, not knowing they were there. This time around, David knows where Saul is, and he is actively sneaking into Saul's camp while he and his men are asleep. But he's not doing it with the intention to kill Saul still. He's doing it with the intention of showing Saul that he had done it, and that he had yet another opportunity to finish him off, and he did not take it. Of course, for this, they'll need evidence, so they take the spear and the water jug. So David took the spear and the water jug near Saul's head, and they left. No one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone wake up. They were all sleeping, because the Lord had put them into a deep sleep. Then David crossed over to the other side, and stood on top of the hill some distance away. There was a wide space between them. Now again, I live in an area that is completely flat. I am not used to living in an area with hills and mountain ranges all over the place. Okay, I don't know what that is like. I do not know how the echo of sound works in such scenarios, such topography, such terrain. I don't know how easy it is to call out from one hilltop and have your voice carry over to another hilltop some distance away. I don't know. I know here in flatlands, that's not easy. Okay, it's like you're not going to be able, if you're standing on the flat plains that I'm used to surrounding me everywhere I look, you're not going to be able to stand and shout and get someone's attention who's too far away from you. But that's different in mountain ranges. Okay, I don't know how the sound carries. But apparently, it carries well enough that you can stand on one mountain range and call out, and someone on another hill or hilltop across from you can hear it. Anyway, so then David crossed over to the other side and stood on top of the hill some distance away. There was a wide space between them. He called out to the army and to Abner, son of Ner. Aren't you, by the way, Abner himself was Saul. We talked about David's men, Joab and Abishai. Abner, let's see here. 1 Samuel 14, verse 50. The name of the commander of Saul's army was Abner, son of Ner. Ner was Saul's uncle. So Abner is Saul's cousin. These royal families and royal courts tended to be pretty closely related. Where was I? Aren't you going to answer me, Abner? Abner replied, Who are you who calls the king? David said, You're a man, aren't you? And who is like you in Israel? Why didn't you guard your lord the king? Someone came to destroy your lord the king. What you have done is not good. As surely as the Lord lives, you and your men deserve to die, because you did not guard your master, the Lord's anointed. Look around you. Where are the king's spear and the water jug that were near his head? Saul recognized David's voice and said, Is that you, David, my son? David replied, Yes, it is, my lord the king. And he added, I'm assuming this is still all taking place at night. I don't know how long it took David to get to this safe distance on this hilltop, but I'm assuming he's waking them up from sleep as he calls out to them, and this is still nighttime. So that not only can they not see, they may not have all their senses about them right away because they're being awakened from a deep sleep. Why is my lord pursuing his servant? What have I done, and what wrong am I guilty of? Now let my lord the king listen to his servant's words. If the Lord has incited you against me, then may he accept an offering. So this is God's doing, then may God be satisfied with an offering. If, however, men have done it, may they be cursed before the Lord. They have now driven me from my share in the Lord's inheritance, and have said, go serve other gods. That means he's been driven out of the land. He's going to leave Israel here and go to the Philistines and hide out with them for a while. The inheritance that he's talking about is the inheritance in the land. So being driven out from his inheritance means he's being driven out of the land, and which he's going to do in the next chapter, and forced to take up refuge with foreigners who serve foreign gods. Only David himself is going to go so far as to serve foreign gods, but he's going to have to take up refuge with people in foreign lands who do serve foreign gods. Now, do not let my blood fall to the ground, far from the presence of the Lord. Letting something fall to the ground means it's letting something in without succeeding. You know, if you're speaking something to somebody and your words fall to the ground, it means your message didn't accomplish its purpose. If letting something fall to the ground basically means not succeeding. Something fails before it reaches its destination. So do not let my blood fall to the ground far from them. He doesn't want to die outside the presence of God. In other words, shedding his blood means dying. Falling to the ground means a futile ending that doesn't accomplish what it's supposed to. So he's saying, don't let him die apart from God. The king of Israel has come out to look for a flea, as one hunts a partridge in the mountains. There's some sort of Hebrew wordplay going on in that verse that doesn't translate to English. I'm not skilled enough in Hebrew to be able to tell you what that is, but there's a reason why he's using this exact imagery, and it has to do with a pun on the Hebrew words. The Bible is actually full of wordplay and puns in the original language, which of course this doesn't translate into English, so we would have no idea of this. And there are probably a lot of times when I read over these puns and I have no idea about it because it doesn't translate into English at all. So this is one of those examples. He's not just using this imagery at random. There's a wordplay that he's using that simply doesn't translate out of Hebrew. Then Saul said, I have sinned. Come back, David, my son. Because you considered my life precious today, I will not try to harm you again. Surely I have acted like a fool, and have erred greatly. David's not going to fall for it. It's too late for that. Here is the king's spear, David answered. Let one of your young men come over to get it. He's not going to go back with Saul. Too much time has passed, too much has been done, it's too late for that. There's no chance of that any longer. The Lord rewards every man for his righteousness and faithfulness. The Lord delivered you into my hands today, but I would not lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. As surely as I valued your life today, so may the Lord value my life and deliver me from all trouble, because he knows that Saul is not going to. He's putting his faith in God to value his life, because he knows that Saul will not. Then Saul said to David, May you be blessed, my son David. You will do great things, and you will surely triumph. So David went on his way, and Saul returned home. That's the last time David and Saul are ever going to interact with each other. And it will, in fact, be the last time that Saul pursues David. For one reason or another, Saul is not going to pursue David again. Not necessarily because he said he wasn't going to, but because David's going to put himself out of Saul's reach by casting his lot in with Israel's enemies. But that's it. David is still legally married to Michal, but he has had his last interaction with Jonathan a few chapters ago. And in this chapter, he's had his last interaction with Saul. Twice now, he has had a chance to attack and kill Saul and has not taken it. The first time, Saul came into the cave where he happened to be. Second time, he went to Saul's camp while they were asleep. And both times, he did not actually attack and kill Saul. So they've had their final exchange, their final conversation, And now they each go on to their separate ways, to their separate destinies.